This is a Heart and Hand production.
Hello everyone, it's David here. Recently I had a chance to sit down and talk to James Bisgrove, who is the commercial director at Rangers, over a number of issues that had been, well, firstly, bothering me as a supporter, and secondly, I know had been bothering a lot of you as listeners. There were two areas that he couldn't discuss due to legal reasons. One was Australia and the other was CTM. It's my understanding that CTM are no longer Rangers partners when it comes to travel, but everything else was on the table. So I spoke to him about a number of issues such as sponsorships, crypto companies, customer service, ticket office, and particularly, and first up, MyGers. So this is what he had to say. A couple of days ago, I submitted a list of questions to Rangers just about general things that fans had been contacting me and that I personally wasn't best pleased about. And I was expecting back some written answers, but James Bisgrove, the Rangers commercial director, actually agreed to come on and speak to us about them. He wanted to chat about these issues. So with that in mind, I'm delighted to introduce James. Hello, thank you very much for taking this time to come and speak to us. I know it's something that the fans will appreciate.
Thanks, David. Yeah, great to be back on. Appreciate you giving me the platform. I think I was last on over a year ago or so with Cami. So yeah, send in my regards, and yeah, thanks again for having me on.
Oh, he'll be delighted. He'll be absolutely delighted that you said that. Any mention for Cami is always a red letter day for him. Right, James, there's a few things I want to ask you about, and I'll be honest, some of them are things that are a bit of a running sore with the Rangers fans. So I'm going to start off with one, and that is MyGers. Now, MyGers, of course, I think from a club point of view, is a big success financially. It's made a lot of money for the club, but for supporters, and I include myself in this, there is a suspicion that we don't get a lot from it unless you're gold tier in the ticket. The ticketing side of things, with a lot of fans feeling that it's unfair, and only if you are gold can you remain gold, can you continue, and that you'll get the lion's share of the tickets. So it's a system that seems to work really well for some and doesn't work very well for others. From my own point of view, and I'll be quite upfront about this, I have a bias. I haven't had a single away ticket this season, so I'm a bit miffed, because in the old days you were guaranteed to get a few, whereas now it feels like to us that it's the same people getting them week in, week out. I do know I've got podders on here such as Andy and Adam and Martin who would all say, no, MyGers is brilliant, but they're all gold and they get tickets, it seems to me, for everything. So what would be your remarks to that, and tell us how you feel MyGers is going?
Yeah, okay, no, it's a fair question, and I acknowledge the frustrations when it comes to ticketing, particularly because the demand is so much far in excess of the supply. So I'll talk a bit about the loyalty framework and points, but from an overarching perspective, MyGers, from the club's perspective, we see it as a really strong initiative for fan engagement. We're now up to over 51,000 members, so the backing that the club have had from supporters on MyGers has been phenomenal. As we've always said, the funds derived from MyGers are directly invested into the first team. So I think since we started MyGers around 2.5-3 seasons ago now, I think it's generated north of £4 million that have gone into first team investment, whether that be Okinawa or recruitment or whatever it might be. And the reason we do genuinely believe it's a platform for fan engagement is because we can create experiences and initiatives, things like the open training session. We had Ibrox, we had a player meet and greet in the store last week. There are continuous fan forums and moments that we can speak to the membership base to get information, to get influence. But look, I think the root of your question is about the loyalty framework, points, and how tickets are distributed. And when I joined the club in 2019, I remember very clearly at the AGM, a season ticket holder stood up and made this point that really stuck with me, that, he hadn't got a ticket to, I think it was Hampden at the time, and he had a season ticket for 15 years, but the guy next to him had just got a season ticket for 1 year, and he got a ticket. So how is this right? And there was a real drive that in some way loyalty had to be recognised as part of the ticketing priority of MyJers. And before MyJers was launched, there were 6 months of supporter engagement where we built this framework to try and recognise loyalty, but to do so, Dave, in a way where it's not a closed shop. So the fact that there's gold, silver and bronze tiers, and that obviously most tickets go to gold, second most go to silver, and third to bronze, means that no matter where you are in the pyramid, you do have a chance to get a ticket, but clearly it's weighted to those with the greatest loyalty based on the points. There were some exceptions to that, and I think the European games and when we play on the other side of the city, I think it's top down. But I think we've got to acknowledge, in saying all of that, MyJers, we're never saying it's set in stone. We're never saying it's perfect. We want to be consistent with the decisions that we take, but we want supporters to be able to influence the loyalty framework. But the reality is, for any given game, particularly any given away game, we're getting in excess of 20,000 applications for 1,000, 2,000 tickets from the 51,000 base. So whatever we do, the majority of people are going to be left frustrated and disappointed. So I think what the onus needs to be on the club is to be as transparent as possible, and I think we've tried to do that in some of the email communications in terms of, right, this is how many tickets we're getting, this is how many that are going into the different tiers, so that there isn't there isn't confusion or there isn't misinformation out there. I think we can do more of that. I think we can get better at it. I think we just need to keep talking to supporters, and if there's a view that aspects of MyJers are not right, then I think we need to listen and be prepared to adapt. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight in terms of, I suppose, the journey of MyJers and some of the benefits that we see from the club's perspective.
On ticketing, Champions League prices, where it came out, and it felt very much like it came out at the high end, and there is a perception among many supporters that one of the issues with ticketing, James, is, or with pricing in general with Rangers, is that it always seems to come down on the high side. If there's a high side, a medium side and a low side, Rangers will always tend to go for the high side. What do you say to that?
I think the pricing discussion and decision is always one where a balance needs to be struck. For the Champions League 3-match packages, there was a discussion, a debate across both boards at the club, the TRFC board, the RIFC board. I think, the recognition that the match day revenues that come from being in the Champions League and that uplift was something that needed to be recognised in some form. The Champions League is the elite competition in World Cup football, but at the same time, and I absolutely recognise some of the feedback in terms of the impact on supporters' wallets, a time where the cost of living crisis is accelerating. Recognising that a family might have to buy, the mum and dad buy the ticket, the parents buy the ticket or the 3-match package rather, and that has a material impact on a family's budget. One of the things that we regret is that we were not able to stagger the payments. It was something that our online ticketing provider was unable to do. And actually, hopefully I can talk later in the interview about what we're doing to address that, because that wasn't acceptable for us. And I think football is not a normal business in many ways, where we demand based on we price based on the demand and the supply. I'm pretty sure we could have sold 100,000 or 150,000  3-match packages, or certainly tickets for the Liverpool game. They sold out very, very quickly. But when I hear the feedback around the price being high and the balance not being right, I can understand it and I can recognise it. And I think it has to be a learning for us as a board next time that we're making these decisions collectively.
Right, now where I'm going to go with this then. On tickets, the ticketing website,
yeah.
It's like a crazy game of Jenga that you've got to negotiate. And I speak as somebody who would class himself as a digital native, so goodness knows what it's like for supporters who don't use websites on a daily basis, or certainly don't use that sort of website. It's not good enough, James, and I think the club would have to admit that. What are the plans in place to try and get it something that's a lot easier to use? Because not only is it difficult for fans, it's going to cost you guys money, because people are just going to give up and go, I can't figure it out.
Agreed. No, wholeheartedly agreed. It costs us money. It generates unnecessary customer service inquiries. It creates frustration. It's not good enough. When I say it's not good enough, I'm talking about the specific ticketing sales platform website. On an overarching perspective, a couple of years ago, we started to roll out our digital transformation strategy at the club. That's now an advanced stage where we've got a club website that is one of the best out there. It's mobile first. It's the same user experience as Man City and PSG. We've done a lot of work on data and CRM so that we can be more targeted with our messages. You'd have seen we've done a lot of work on social media, and our engagement figures are some of the best in Europe based on some of the content out there. And Rangers TV is something that's tracking really, really well. But we have had a long-term contract with a ticketing platform that has not fulfilled its purpose, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the functionality that it's provided. So what we're doing to address that, we are live in the market at the moment with a tender. We're talking to the 2 or 3 best, well-renowned global ticketing platform providers out there, with a view of making the right change, which should happen in the course of next year. We're doing that aligned with New Edmiston House, because clearly we need to have a ticketing platform there for all the different events, the concerts, and all the other aspects and facets of New Edmiston House. But we've got to take this one on the chin. We're going to take it head on. But hopefully there's some consolation there when you can hear that the club are already taking steps to make the necessary change and make the necessary investment as well to improve that.
Oh, good. I'll have a party when the new one gets launched, to be quite honest with you. Right, moving on then to commercial revenue. You said last year at the AGM that the commercial revenue is going to double to 23 million. And I must admit, it was one of those things where I leaned forward and went...
27.
Really? 27, yeah. I leaned forward and went, really? Now, a question that I get asked a lot, and I don't know the answer to, so one of the reasons I asked you guys this, of that commercial, does that include ticket sales?
No. Ticket sales are separate. So,
well, then my next question, obviously, how are you going to get 27 million out of it?
How are we counting it? Yeah. So, you're right. Last November at the AGM, I spoke about the 27.9 million target for commercial revenue. Previous highs had been 13, 14 million. I think we inherited about 8 million a year when I came in at the end of the 18-19 season. We've been able to grow that and surpass that number to, I think we were well north of the 27.9. This season we're aiming for 30. The reason we can do that is the supporter backing. That has to be recognised up front. Through retail, through Rangers TV, through stadium tours, MyJers. That's what allows us to take it to those heights. Also, I think we've got some brilliant people, we've got some amazing staff that allow us to do that, and we're trying to modernise our approach. And that commercial revenue is what allows us, we hope, to support the financial sustainability of Rangers alongside those other pillars of the match day ticketing revenue, which is a separate number, player trading, European football, etc., etc. But that commercial number, there's probably 10 pillars to it. So the biggest, the most chunky, if you like, is commercial partnerships. We've got 3 tiers of partnerships, I think circa 30, 35 partners now, and that contributes around £8 million to that total. The second biggest is retail. So the Castor partnership, some of the licensed products that we've now started to bring to the market, that's around 6 to 7 million. So that's really chunky as well. Hospitality, extending and investing some of the facilities here at Ibrox with Club 72, obviously Blue Sky Lounge coming on board, that will also bring some extra seats and extra capacity to the stadium. The Forest Precision Executive Lounge, and that's circa 7 million as well. Those are the really chunky elements that contribute to that. We've also got MyJers that we touched on earlier in the discussion, and that's between 1.5 and 2 million. Now they're up to 51,000 members. Broadcast is a really one platform, Rangers TV, the backing we get through subscriptions, through pay-per-view. There are some of our media rights that we are able to sell before we get into centralised competitions in Europe, for example. Then there are other components that also support this. So there are soccer academies, what we're doing domestically and internationally through Gary Gibson and his team. That's north of £1 million in terms of revenue. Our joint venture now with Levy, so that's $1.5 million. That's non-match. That's conference and event business. That's the restaurant. It's the other aspects that certainly New Emberston House will really allow us to accelerate. We've also got digital media in there, which is about $500,000. So the advertising revenues through social media. Every time you watch a press conference or a clip on Twitter, you're going to get a pre-roll ads. The club benefits from that through advertising revenues, and more so given our engagements and our audience. And then we've got things like stadium tours, the events we do, the play or Q&As with ex-players, which is about $750K. And the last one, if you're still with me, is the 10th pillar, and that's New Emberston House and stadium concerts. So we had Harry Styles here in the summer, and that's somewhere between $1 to $2 million. Emberston House should be £1 million clear profit for us once it's up and running this season. So that, if you like, is our commercial ecosystem and the different pillars that sit within it. And I'm really pleased that in the last 2-3 years we've expanded all of them. Again, that's 100% down to the backing of Rangers supporters, domestically, internationally. It's also thanks to commercial sponsors that have backed us, and I think the more modern approach that we brought to what we do.
In terms of some of the partnerships that you mentioned there, a controversial one was Sportimon Go, who are a crypto firm who, of course, went bust, leaving us with their logo on the back of the shirts. Now, crypto is a very controversial market because of the risk involved for anyone who gets involved in it. A lot of football clubs have been taking money from crypto firms, and the crypto firms have been going bust. It's not just Sportimon Go. Is this an area that you think Rangers really should be being involved in?
I think the first thing I would say and answer that question, David, is an apology to supporters that bought a home shirt and understand that there's a sponsor on the back that doesn't match the first team, obviously being soccer. So, you know, to John Bennett's point last week, that's one we've got to take responsibility of and own. So, you know, of the 40 odd commercial partnerships we've done in the last couple of years, it's one that we got wrong. However, from a commercial point of view, including the Sportimon Go partnership and others in crypto and NFT, within an 18-month period, the club made several £1 million of profit. And I think we saw an opportunity, we saw an emerging market, and we took the view that we wanted to capitalize on that and not necessarily wait and then others take advantage. So from a commercial point of view, that was a key contributor to allowing us to reach some of the heights that we've reached from revenue terms. But ultimately, the impact, because of when we had to confirm the kit sponsors per the production timelines of Castor and making sure that, you know, we have the right numbers of kits available for launch, put us in a position that was certainly unfavourable, unsatisfactory, and, you know, one that we take a learning from. So in summary, I would say there we probably had our moment, we probably had our time there, and we probably wouldn't be in a hurry to back into this sector given that particular experience. Even though, as I said, financially and commercially it worked for us, it left an impact that was not one that we are happy with at all.
Moving on to the next part, and that is customer service. Now, that's a long-running area of complaint for supporters, that customer service hasn't quite been up to the standard that you'd expect from an organisation like Rangers. Big bugbear of mine, James, I've been moaning about it for years, predates your time, is that Rangers haven't had enough staff to cope with the size of the fan base, really. What are you doing to improve the customer service?
Yeah, there's a lot of focus and investment in that area. About a year ago, we appointed David Milburn, to lead customer service. Prior to David coming in, our support to inquiries, customer service was not handled at all in a centralised manner. So you'd have, you know, someone in the ticket office would answer an email, someone in the commercial team, or someone in the facilities team, and it wasn't fit for purpose at all. So we brought in David. He's now got a team of 5, so it's a team of 6 that focus purely on answering and supporting supporter inquiries, of which we receive between 15 and 20,000 per month. 80% of them are answered and solved within one day. So there is a lot of work that goes into managing those inquiries, to giving supporters the advice, the support that they need, no matter what the issue is. We also invested in some of the best technology in this space. It's a platform called Zendesk, so it allows us to consolidate and manage customer service in the way that a lot of the big organizations out there do, enhance some of the web pages. There's a chatbot there. So we've gone from not really having a customer service function to having a dedicated function, and one that we're continuing to support and invest in. And I think we also recognize that, a digital customer service mechanism isn't for everyone. And I think, whenever Greg Marshall's on the SLO, he'll talk about some of the drop-in centers we've now got at the fan hub. So if supporters want advice in person, if they need a little bit of help with the online platform, we've got staff there that will do it. Seeking as well to open the ticket office outside of match days for people that just want to come up and speak to another human being, speak to another person. So I agree with the question, David, in terms of previous frustrations, and perhaps we're not there yet. If this is still a topic that's leading to some frustration, but hopefully you're reassured that we've invested in people, we've invested in technology there, and it's something that we really believe is integral and important to providing the right service to supporters.
Yeah, as James mentioned there, folks, Greg will be joining us on a future occasion. He's going to talk to us about ticket office, etc. I've got questions with regards to that as well. One other thing, just before we're kind of getting to the end here, and I appreciate the time, but one is about match day experience, and that's food at the grounds. Changed suppliers in the summer, didn't get off to a good start, and it's always going to be a big issue for supporters because they are a captive market when they're in the stadium. They want to buy stuff, but it seems to be more difficult at times than it really needs to be. What steps are you taking to make sure that this improves?
Yeah, this is another area where it's right at the top of our agenda. And as you say, we brought on board Levy in the summer, who replaced a long-term partner that were probably not providing us with some of the innovation that we were aspiring to, and also the commercial arrangement, because the Levy arrangement is a joint venture with a profit share. So the majority of the profits through any of these catering activities flow back to the club. And Levy run some of the leading venues in the UK. They've got the new Spurs Stadium, O2 Arena in London, Stamford Bridge. They've got the Hydro in Glasgow. So we've got a lot of confidence in their capability. There still is a lot of space for us to, I think, improve, particularly the match day catering at the kiosks. There's investment that's ongoing there in terms of the equipment. Some of the, let's say, easier ones that we've already seen in terms of the digital screens and the new menus, but there's a lot more that is happening behind the scenes in terms of the equipment investment, staff training investment, and as I said, it's an area that we were absolutely committed to enhance, because it's in everyone's benefit in terms of the supporter experience, but also as we extend to New Emerson House and we open up the fan zone there, we really want that to be a hub of activity. We want food vendors, we want street food, we want it to have a festival feel for the 30 occasions that it will be a fan village or fan zone. So looking also at Blue Sky Lounge, which is not only a hospitality space, will be a restaurant for supporters. It will be part of the experience on and on match day, and investing in the right menus, the right catering expertise, the right equipment to lift that level is something that Levy have convinced us that they are well placed to do. And I can assure you that the club absolutely are working in partnership with them, but holding them to account in terms of those commitments that they've made us. So I acknowledge that there were instances, particularly in those first few games, where that level wasn't reached. I do feel that there has been improvement. I certainly feel that there can be more improvement. And as I said, you've got our commitment that it's an area that will remain really, really top of mind and top of the agenda.
Now, the last question I have for you today is a general one, and this was, I think, probably the genesis of this interview, which was there has been, it's felt like this season in particular, a growing chasm between the board and the supporters. We hadn't heard from anyone on board level for 6 months minimum. Over the last couple of weeks, notice John Bennett, Stuart Robertson, now yourself. Can we take that as an acceptance from the board that you realise that perhaps that wasn't the way to go, and that you've got to keep speaking to supporters and keep them in the loop with what's going on?
Yeah, I think absolutely 100%. I think John spoke about it last week in terms of having to own that and having to acknowledge that the communications have not been good enough, and this is something that we need to be more front-footed on. I don't think, by the way, that it was a deliberate strategy not to engage. It was certainly a mistake, but it's probably too much being focused on running the business, trying to deliver these numbers, trying to deliver all the projects. That this wasn't something that we've done in a few months. But that's something that we now recognise, and hopefully is a learning for us moving forward. I've said to you, David, and Mark Dingwall or Stevie Clifford, that I'm always happy to engage, to talk. I've gone along to some of the MyJoe's focus groups as well previously. So I would rather be engaging directly so that we can get the feedback that we need to take the right decisions for the football club. So yes, we need to own the fact that communication in the recent period wasn't good enough. But yeah, hopefully you're starting to see now that we are being more front-footed there, and that is a trend and approach that will absolutely continue.
Thank you very much for joining me today, James. It's been thoroughly appreciated.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
That was a Heart and Hand production.